To move forward with conviction, vision matters. We are Forvis, a forward-thinking professional services firm that uses our unmatched vision to prepare for what's ahead. Our commitment to forward vision is delivered on an expanded platform and driven by deep industry expertise, vast resources, and innovative advisory services. Forward vision, it's in our actions and our name.
My favorite part about working in the warehouse is just the opportunity to come down every day and feel the equipment that's getting packed up. Really see the equipment go from something that someone's dreamed about having at a youth program to something that they're actually going to be able to give to their kids. Good Sports works with equipment manufacturers to take in donations of excess equipment that they have. Everything ranging from soccer balls, footballs, basketballs, to workout equipment and training equipment. We then take that equipment and we are able to distribute it to youth programs and schools across the country. Equipment vendors are the lifeblood of what Good Sports does. Without their support every year, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
They're providing us with the ability to be able to service organizations throughout the country. Through their generosity, a lot of kids benefit in the long run.
Our team has grown exponentially recently. It's because of all our great partnerships with our equipment vendors and with the community organizations.
The growth means that Good Sports is servicing more kids, more organizations. Our inventory continues to grow, and so does Good Sports.
Every picture that I take is a prayer. It was only 15 months ago that I had a stroke. I was scared for sure, but these were the cards that I was dealt.
When Sal first came to Team Rehab, he was in pretty rough shape, but I knew we could push him.
The big thing that Jake has done for me is give me the confidence that I can do it. It's a partnership.
Sal's still a work in progress, but he's getting better.
A work in progress? I like the sound of that.
Team Rehabilitation. Visit team-rehab.com.
I've worked for a lot of really large organizations where values were fancy words on a pretty poster. At SCA Health, that is the striking difference. We live and breathe those every day.
They are always talking about patient care, high quality care. I've never heard of a company talk so much about their patients.
It is a company that consistently looks to improve. All I want to do is more for a company that takes care of me like that.
My voice is getting heard. I make a difference where I work. What input I have, they're looking at and they're listening to.
If you want quality of life, if you want room for growth, and if you want to be in a place where you know that you're safe and you know that you're keeping your patients safe, I would recommend it.
Putting in the work at SCA means being recognized. The promotions are there, the education is there, the next steps are there. I'm proof that the resources, the encouragement, the mentorship is there.
I've been here 11 years. It is the SCA values that have kept me here.
It's one of the first companies I worked for that has invested in me.
I come to work every day and I know things are going to go well.
I mean, it's the best company I've ever worked for.
They allow me to be who I am. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Over the last several decades, we at Midwest Orthopedics at Rush have depended upon our donors to help fortify our investment in translational research. Translational research is our ability to identify a problem in the clinic, take it to the laboratory, and bring it back to you, the patient, and affect change and improve the quality and outcomes of your care.
A lot of times we don't even see the benefits of our research come to the light of day in the clinical setting. With the use of donor funding, we've been able to accelerate a lot of that. And one example is with personalized medicine, where we're taking patients' blood, spinning it down, and taking different factors out of it to treat different conditions in ways that we really never had available to us in the past. And this is a way to really move things forward and offer different options to patients that didn't exist before.
Through the generosity of our donors over the years, we truly have had one of the greatest impacts of any department in the country and had this effect both nationally and internationally. So thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Chicago Sports Summit. I'm Dr. Brian Cole, managing partner of Midwest Orthopedics at Rush, head team physician for the Chicago Bulls, and co-team physician for the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Dogs. I'm also the director of the Chicago Sports Summit. Thank you for being with us tonight. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please be sure to come back for the next 4 episodes on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. through November 8th. Just like this evening's episode, each will feature a brief conversation with an interesting personality in sports. It will include individuals in sports marketing and sports business. All conversations are hosted by Chicago media professionals. You can check out chicagosportssummit.com for our dates and the fantastic lineup that we have. Since our first summit in 2016, the Chicago Sports Summit has benefited organizations that we are passionate about. Proceeds from this year's summit will benefit a national organization with a significant Chicago presence called Good Sports. Now, this organization provides sports equipment and resources to underserved Chicago students. This year's summit also benefits orthopedic research at Rush, which helps us to learn how to stay active and live pain-free. Donations are now being taken on our website. Now I'd like to take a moment to thank the presenting sponsors who have helped us by providing generous funding for this year's summit. Please meet Team Rehab and Leopardo.
Thank you, Dr. Cole. As a physical therapy company with locations in Illinois and Indiana, we are honored to care for your orthopedic patients. Together, we are getting people back to doing what they love. We are proud to be the presenting sponsor of the 2022 Chicago Sports Summit.
Leopardo Companies is proud to be a presenting sponsor of the summit for the 6th year. As a construction and development company, we enjoy working alongside Dr. Cole and his team building new locations for better patient care and access.
Thank you very much. For a full list of our dedicated sponsors, please visit chicagosportssummit.com. Now I'd like to take another moment to introduce one of my partners, Dr. Brian Forsyth. He is uniquely qualified to introduce our guests for tonight's episode.
Thanks, Brian. Hello, I'm Brian Forsyth, a sports medicine surgeon and a team doctor for pro athletes in Chicago, including head orthopedic officer for the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. I'm honored to introduce Ishwara Glassman-Chrein, president of the Chicago Fire and a driving force behind the Chicago Fire's new direction. She is one of 4 female top executives amongst 28 Major League Soccer teams. She brings a strong business background and a passionate approach to her job running one of the nation's top clubs. Talking with Ishwara tonight is ABC7 Chicago sports reporter and anchor Dionne Miller. Dionne provides her Channel 7 viewers regular sports updates, and she enjoys digging deep with sports feature stories. Let's check out their conversation.
Well, thank you, Dr. Forsyth, for that lovely introduction. I am Dionne Miller from ABC7, thrilled to be joining you and welcoming you to the 2022 Chicago Sports Summit, and honored to be joined tonight by Ishwara Glassman-Chrein, the president of the Chicago Fire. Now, this is a woman who has been a sports fan her entire life. She grew up watching baseball, basketball, hockey, any sport on the planet. She can get excited about supporting any game that she watches. But soccer was not always at the forefront until now, and she has quickly fallen in love with not only the Chicago Fire, but with their place in the Chicago sports landscape, and we are thrilled to welcome you to the Chicago Sports Summit. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My first question for you is, why did you apply for this job?
Well, I didn't apply for this job, actually. I was very fortunate and loved my job, but I was recruited into this job, actually.
Wow. And you've been on the job now for about 18 months, maybe a little bit more. What have you learned about what this role entails as president of a football club?
Yeah, no, there are a lot of new things. My family and I moved from New York, so Chicago's been new. It's been really fun to get to know the city and the people. And it's my first time working on the team side. I've worked in sports for a long time, but there's nothing as fun as working on the team side of sports. I mean, standing in the tunnel at Soldier Field when your team runs out, there's just nothing quite like the energy of working on the team side.
Have you felt like it is a good fit for you, coming from the business world that you did? And what kind of skills did you bring from that into this position?
Yeah, as you know, I started in banking and consulting, so I suppose you could argue I could go be president of a manufacturing company, but I'll never leave sports. I mean, working in sports is the most fun thing. I mean, we deal with a lot of the same issues non-sports companies deal with. We have a legal department and an HR department, accountants. We were doing budgets today, but still fundamentally, we're doing budgets for sporting events. It just makes it so much more fun. I think it's an interesting dynamic because when people tell me that they want to come work in the sports industry, I said, that's great, but you realize most people in the sports industry are not athletes or agents like you see on TV. There's a lot of other things. You can be a lawyer or an HR professional or a marketer in sports. What is it that you're good at?
Right, and it seems to be like a proper fit for you, for sure. What have you done to initiate change in the environment that you're in? Because I know that's important to you. And you were brought in because they needed a new voice and they needed a fresh voice. So how were you able to kind of instrument some change?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we want to get better. We have new ownership, we have new management, we want to be better across the board. And for me, there were three big things I was focused on. Being better to our fans, being better to our corporate partners, and being better to our staff. And I think we've done things along all three of those elements. On our partners, we're really working on connecting with corporate Chicago. We've signed a bunch of new partners. Probably most significantly was Wintrust, which are really excited. They're on the retaining wall around Soldier Field when we play. We've done a deal with Revolution Brewing, which our fans absolutely love, the beer, and they actually have done a Chicago Fire branded beer, which you'll see at grocery stores all over the city, and it's been a huge seller. It's like one of those partnerships that's actually truly endemic because fans love it, they love it. It's been a really great partnership. We've had our players there, we've done watch parties there. And then we've done a lot to connect with fans. We've had over 20,000 fans 3 times this year. Awesome. And lastly, we've made it a great place for people to work. That's I think, really the heart of it. If you want to grow a culture, you have to make it a place where really talented people want to work.
What are some of the challenges that you've run into taking over a team that is in a major market with 5, 6 other professional teams here?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of teams in Chicago that have been here for a long time and are incredibly popular. But there's also a huge demand for soccer in Chicago. We know that there are something like 3 million soccer fans in Chicago. And actually, I was in an Uber this morning and I was talking to my taxi driver and he was telling me all about how much he loves soccer. He's like, I'm going to go home and watch the Romanian national team play after I drop you off at work. It's our job to connect with them and connect them with the Fire, and that's something we're working really hard on.
What have you noticed is a challenge for you in retaining the players that you have and making sure you're touching that international market that does have such a large fan base?
Yeah, so we have players on our roster today from 10 to 15 different countries. MLS is among the most international of any sport, but we also have 10 to 12 players on a roster who are from Chicago, who have all different ethnicities and backgrounds, but are fundamentally Chicagoans. And we've done a lot of really cool things like putting up posters and bus boards and doing events in their neighborhoods. We did a really big event in Pilsen a few weeks ago with Jairo Torres, who was a signing from Mexico, and it really resonated in that community. We want to keep doing more of that and be authentically Chicago.
When you look at your place in this sport, in MLS, you are just the 4th woman to ever hold an executive position in the game. What does that mean to you? What does that say about where this league is?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a joy of mine to push the envelope and push challenges and surprise people. Of course, you want there to be a lot more, right? You want to be the woman who brings up other people beneath you, both women and other groups that have historically not had a lot of opportunities in the sports industry. The sports industry historically has been, hiring based on nepotism, so that fundamentally just doesn't lead to much diversity of any kind. Right. And we're trying to do things to make it a better place for people to work. We instituted better maternity leave and paternity leave, and we have a mother's room, we have hybrid work, we have casual dress, and the funny thing about it is that everybody likes those things. Yeah, we have better maternity and paternity leave, and more fathers have taken it than mothers, which is wonderful.
That is wonderful. I mean, you told me this in our pre-interview, and I was like, okay, where do I apply? This sounds magical. Right. What a wonderful place to work. What have you learned about your fan base? I mean, the Fire fan base is rabid, and they're incredibly passionate, and they travel well, and they're into this team. What have you learned about connecting with them on a deeper level that hasn't been there before?
Yeah, when I first started talking to sponsors, which I love doing. I love going out and talking to people. The first thing he says, I already sponsor the Cubs or the Blackhawks or the Bears. I'm like, that's really great, but did you know the following 2 things? One, at Soldier Field, 65% of the people in the building are Latino, and 50% of the people in the building aren't a fan of any other Chicago sports team. It's a different audience. Yeah. It's a very different audience.
So how do you meet them where they're at?
Yeah, so I actually took my 13-year-old daughter to the game we played last weekend, and the gentleman behind me says, I really wanted to meet you. And this is different, a New York difference than Chicago. In New York, as the president of a team who maybe was below the playoff line, people would probably scream and curse at me. In Chicago, people are so nice. But what he said to me, which was so flattering, he said, I came to this game, my commute was like this, it's a big sacrifice for me to come to this game because I have a busy, work and home life. Goes, my 11-year-old daughter really wanted to meet you because she dreams that she could have this job.
Wow.
And can I have a picture with you? And nobody really wants a picture with me. Everybody's there to meet the players.
Yeah.
But that was really flattering. And my daughter, who still doesn't think I'm cool, thought that was kind of cool.
Nonsense. You are very cool.
Not if you're 13.
Well, I would love to have a picture with you as well. So do you view yourself as a role model? Like you said, you've always wanted to push the envelope. Yeah. Knowing that young girls are looking up to you in that role, does that mean a lot to you?
It does mean a lot. So we own this building called the Fire Pitch, where we do a lot of recreational soccer, and I love going to talk to the boys and girls who are playing there. But it's equally important to raise our boys to see strong women.
Absolutely.
Like I have an 11-year-old son, he's always trying to mansplain sports to me.
Yeah.
And I always said to him, Matthew, I actually we were doing a mock fantasy football draft the other day, and I was like, I can talk you under the table in the NFL. And so, but that's good for him, right?
It is good for him. I love it. Those are life lessons that will never be forgotten. How have you kind of navigated that learning the game? Because you were very open and honest about the fact that this was not something you grew up watching and embracing. Like, how have you gone about learning the game and given yourself space and grace to kind of do that?
Yeah, I grew up watching football, basketball, hockey, tennis, fight sports. Like, I played volleyball, I played a lot of sports. Soccer just wasn't one of those sports I grew up watching. I first started following the women's national team because they're just so talented and fun, and there aren't enough women's sports on TV. Our general manager, his favorite thing to say to me, goes, I love that you don't know anything about soccer because you don't tell me who to sign. I think a compliment. But he now says, he goes, you now know as much soccer as the average fan of ours at a game. So I've learned. And two, I said to him a few things. I said, it's fine, I'm not going to tell you who to sign, but if you could sign a Mexican player and a Polish player, that would be great for me.
Yeah.
And he did.
And he did. I mean,
I'm not going to tell you which one. But
So I want to know a little bit more about the Fire Youth Organization and how you're kind of growing the game at a grassroots level, because that is a very big deal for this franchise.
For sure. So we do a ton of free programming as well. We work with, I think, it's something like 50 to 100 Chicago public schools every year to do free programming for kids. Because as we all know, if we have kids, soccer is expensive. Most youth sports are too expensive. And it's just a great outlet for kids, whether they become soccer players or not professionally, just to build leadership skills. So we do a lot of that. Then we have the Fire Pitch, where we have recreational soccer. We do summer camps. So 300,000 people go through the Fire Pitch every year.
Wow. Don't tell me soccer's not popular. That's amazing. You've mentioned more than once your children. I know that you love being a mom, but how has this added a new dynamic of how you have to balance that role with this very important role?
Yeah, when I started my career, I would always say, I have to leave. It's 3:00. I'm going to a business meeting offsite. When in reality, I was taking my daughter to gymnastics, right? But you didn't feel comfortable saying that, because most of the people you worked with were men, and most of them had wives who did that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not that they were bad people, it just wasn't what was acceptable. And now I try to be very transparent with my staff that, hey, I'm gonna work from home today because my nanny got COVID and I have to be home today. And I think, actually, there's a lot of joy. The good thing that COVID's brought to us is you see kids and dogs and significant others on camera, and it's actually sort of for a moment of levity.
Totally, and I feel like I can completely relate to what you just said about just being real about life, and I feel like COVID allowed us to do that in kind of a new way. How has moving to Soldier Field, you think, helped your franchise?
Yeah, it was very important to us to be in Chicago. We do a lot of good work in Chicago. We're helping to build a community center in North Austin. Our owner does a lot of great philanthropic work in the city, as do we. We wanted to be in the city. We wanted to be close to our fans. And there's something magical the players would tell you. Especially for our players who came from big European soccer cultures, playing in Soldier Field feels big, for lack of a better word. So there is that. But there are also significant challenges. Soldier Field is a very busy building, right? The Bears play there. There are concerts. I think last weekend there was Bad Bunny and the Chili Peppers. And there's a lot of concerts, I'd love to go to. I wanted to go to the weekend. I was out of town. But it's a very busy building, and it's owned by the city, and the city uses Soldier Field to make money for important civic programming. But simultaneously, it's very hard for us to have a home where we can't play all of our games.
Yeah, that has to be a challenge. I can't even imagine. What are the challenges of being a woman in a man's world in this kind of capacity, especially when you're coming in as the newbie?
Yeah, I'll tell a funny story. I was standing on the field on the tunnel when the players ran out at a game, and a player from another team who's probably nameless, he says to me, he goes, so are you a WAG, a wife, a girlfriend, or the team secretary?
Oh my gosh.
Actually, you have to learn to roll with it a little bit. I'm like, that must mean my outfit looks good today. I think I'll wear this again. You can't get overly riled up about it.
Right. No, you
sometimes
totally
I do
can't.
if I'm in a certain mood, but
Of course. How have you kind of connected with, you mentioned wanting to connect with larger corporations and bring in those sponsors. How have you been able to do that in selling this opportunity to them? Because you know your franchise is growing. How are you convincing them that it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've convinced them in a number of ways. Moving to Soldier Field has been big. We are under new ownership. We have among the top 5 payroll in the league. We have the highest staff in Major League Soccer. We're about to build a performance center. We are investing in the club, and so when we ask others to invest in us, we can show how much we are in fact investing in the club. And I think what really makes us unique when we partner with corporations is, it's interesting, I talk a lot about how diversity and equity and inclusion, or DEI as it's called, is the right thing to do, but it's also really good for business. Almost every single sponsor I talk to is interested in our charity program, and also in the fact that we're a good employer, we do good, and also that our audience is diverse and unique relative to most of the other things they spend money marketing.
Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned this performance center a couple times. Tell me more about this, where it's going, and what you hope it brings to the community.
Yeah, so we are building it at Ashland and Roosevelt. It is what is known today as Adams-Medill Park. It is currently going through review and going up through the City Council and the Department of Planning and Development and CHA. I've learned all sorts of acronyms too. But we are really excited to build there. We're going to build about 5.5 fields. We're going to put a gym, performance center, medical treatments. We're going to work with our partners. We're going to do some real estate development on there. We're going to do a lot of internship and job programs for the community. I mean, we purposely wanted to build in a community that could use the investment. I mean, I think, no disrespect, most sports teams build their training centers in largely wealthy white suburbs. And that's the easiest thing to do, but we want to be part of a community. We want to do good in the community, and we want to talk to our community.
Yeah. Your franchise has gone through some rough years.
For sure.
How do you think from your position you help build a culture of success?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I came in here, I sort of very much came in with my New Yorkerisms. You know, they'd be like, I want this report. They're like, when? I'm like, well, now.
Yeah.
You know, I want everything now. But fundamentally, it's about hiring people who will only tolerate the best and believe in what we're building. And there really is nothing more fun than working at a professional sports team. We hire people who are smart, hardworking. I mean, working in sports is fun, but it is really, really hard work because we work normal business hours and then we throw tons of events, right? And we are at every single game. You may be at the game for 2 hours, but we're there for 6 or 12 or whatever. And also, it has to be, I work a lot, but I love what I do. You want to find people who have this passion and joy in it. And nobody loves our club as much as we do. We've insourced virtually everything. We do everything ourselves because no one cares about our brand and lives it as much as we do.
That's awesome. Have you found that has attracted people? You said people want to work there, but are you getting like applications of very qualified people to join your cause?
Yeah, and in fact, I would tell you since the beginning of the year, we have hired, 50 to 100 people, and 70% of them have been diverse individuals.
Wow, that's awesome.
So you have to live your values.
Yeah.
We've been particularly focused on hiring a lot of Spanish speakers. We are actually one of only 3 Major League Soccer teams to have a website and ticketing process in Spanish. And yes, it's the right thing to do, but also I'd like to sell tickets to people who speak Spanish. So why wouldn't I make it easy for them?
Do you think it's an advantage coming in from the business world? Because you keep saying, well, because it's the right thing to do, and not having this whole, well, that's the way we've always done it kind of mentality. Do you think you've been able to initiate change because of that?
It's not to say that the way we've always done it has been wrong, but we're trying to make things better. So why would we start with the way we've always done it?
Yeah.
There are a lot of things we've historically done really well. I'd actually tell you that our youth programs and our academy program is one of those things we've done really well. The term is strange to a non-soccer person. We just sold our star goalkeeper, Gabriel Slonina, to Chelsea in England for over $10 million. We're building amazing talent. He grew up here in Chicago.
Yeah. That is hard to understand.
The word sold is a little strange.
The word sold does sound a little strange,
but it is the proper word.
It is the proper word. That is how it works. Has some of that stuff been eye-opening to you and an education for you, especially with the international?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I wish I knew Spanish. I know German, so that's how we have players from all over the world. But the first thing when I joined, they said to me, oh, that's offsides. They're like, no, it's offside. And in hockey, it's offsides. Okay. And then I was watching a game the other day, and I was like, Philadelphia keeps pressing us. And actually, my credit, our football said, he goes, that was actually correct. I said, see, it's just like basketball. They're pressing and, trying to score. So he says to me that actually a lot of sports things are similar. I think the formations to me are actually quite similar to hockey with the goalie and the defenseman and the offensive players. But
that's awesome. What are your top priorities? When you look at your to-do list right now with your team, I will say I don't want to ignore the fact that the team has made quite a turnaround here and they are pushing for that playoff spot, which is amazing. Yeah. But when you look at your to-do list for the Fire, where do you want to start?
I want to sell my front of jersey sponsorship. You know, soccer is one of the few sports where we are allowed to sell such a prominent position. So I'd like to sell that. I've been working really hard on selling that. I've gone so far as to wear jerseys that say your name here when I go to corporate events, you know, chief marketer. And I want butts and seats at Soldier Field. We want fans in the building because everything drives around that fan interest. The players love it, sponsors care about it, and it's just more fun for everyone.
Yeah. Have you touched base with the other presidents in the city, and how has that helped you kind of adapt to the sports scene here?
Yeah, no, I mean, Chicagoans are notoriously friendly and welcoming, and it's been a really great, it's really interesting because New York probably has more sports executives than anyone else, so it's a smaller world in Chicago, and people have been very welcoming. I joined the board of WISE, which is Women in Sports in Chicago, and there's just been a really warm and welcoming community, and I enjoy it. It's a really fun, sassy group, but it feels really good to be able to give back too.
That's awesome. Do you notice that you're making a difference? Like, do you recognize it? Because I feel your energy, and I know that is contagious across your club.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? I think you become good at your job just like any athlete does by always wanting more. So I never feel like it's enough. I'm always emailing and always doing more. And all you can do is lead by example. I don't believe that you can change people into wanting it. You have to want it. I don't hire people who I have to convince to want it.
Yeah. Are you ready for a playoff, like a fire playoff game?
Yeah, you know, I love jewelry, and they give out these really nice rings.
They do give out nice rings. You deserve a ring.
I really want a ring. So one of my colleagues has like 5. So.
Oh yeah, no,
those would look so much better on me.
You are totally doable, Ishwara. Thank you so much for joining us. I love chatting with you, Ishwara. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your attention. Dr. Cole, we'll send it to you.
Thank you, Ishwara and Dionne. That was a wonderful, candid conversation about what it takes to run a soccer club. On behalf of Midwest Orthopedics Rush, our sponsors, and myself, thank you for watching tonight. Next week, we'll be talking to the president of the Chicago Cubs, Crane Kenny. Please tune in to this one and all of our Summit episodes each Tuesday at 7 p.m. through November 8th. Check out chicagosportssummit.com for the lineup, and remember, it's not too late to donate to the Chicago Sports Summit Foundation either. Have a good night and be safe.
My favorite part about working in the warehouse is just the opportunity to come down every day and feel the equipment that's getting packed up. Really see the equipment go from something that someone's dreamed about having at a youth program to something that they're actually going to be able to give to their kids. Good Sports works with equipment manufacturers to take in donations of excess equipment that they have. Everything ranging from soccer balls, footballs, basketballs, to workout equipment and training equipment. We then take that equipment and we are able to distribute it to youth programs and schools across the country. Equipment vendors are the lifeblood of what Good Sports does. Without their support every year, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
They're providing us with the ability to be able to service organizations throughout the country. Through their generosity, a lot of kids benefit in the long run.
Our team has grown exponentially recently. It's because of all our great partnerships with our equipment vendors and with the community organizations.
The growth means that Good Sports is servicing more kids, more organizations. Our inventory continues to grow, and so does Good Sports.
To move forward with conviction, vision matters. We are Forvis, a forward-thinking professional services firm that uses our unmatched vision to prepare for what's ahead. Our commitment to forward vision is delivered on an expanded platform and driven by deep industry expertise, vast resources, and innovative advisory services. Forward vision, it's in our actions and our name.
Here I am 1 year from college and I tear my ACL. They're telling me I'm not going to be able to play college football, and I'm thinking, that sucks. Team Rehab comes along and says, hey, let's get to work. They don't rely on routine programs. It was all about me and my dream to play again. Now I'm visiting Ivy League schools, and oh yeah, I'll be playing. I could have given up. I'm glad I went to Team Rehab because they didn't. Team works.
Team Rehabilitation. Visit team-rehab.com.
Every picture that I take is a prayer. It was only 15 months ago that I had a stroke. I was scared for sure, but these were the cards that I was dealt.
When Sal first came to Team Rehab, he was in pretty rough shape, but I knew we could push him.
The big thing that Jake has done for me is give me the confidence that I can do it. It's a partnership.
Sal's still a work in progress, but he's getting better.
A work in progress? I like the sound of that.
Team Rehabilitation. Visit team-rehab.com.